Good morning and good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to today's Exploring by the Seat of Your Pants and Reach the World event. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I'll be your host for today. For several months, we've teamed up with Reach the World and the Falkland Maritime Heritage Trust as preparations were underway for the Endurance22 Expedition. The goal being to find Ernest Shackleton's ship Endurance that sank in roughly 3,000 meters of water in 1915. So we had an incredible series of connections leading up to the departure of the Agulhas 2. We connected with members of the technology team deploying things like buoys into the Weddell Sea. We connected with marine archaeologist Menson Bound. We connected with Chad, who talked to us all about some of the ROVs and AUVs that they'll be using to search deep underwater for the wreck site. So we've had some special events as well. We connected with Reach the World's Tim Jacob from South Africa, from Cape Town in harbor right before the Agulhas 2 departed. And then we had an amazing connection yesterday, just as they were starting to get in to some of that slushy ice in the Weddell Sea. We even had the first seal sighting. Tim was really excited about that yesterday. So we were really excited to be a part of that. We learned about the weather crew that's on board and the important measurements they're taking every day. So we can learn about things like the weather that's coming up, the thickness of the ice, so they can prepare for the expedition. And so we have another really exciting live connection today. They're getting close to the sink site. So they're doing a lot of maneuvering with the ship right now as they move through some of the ice. So the connection today could be a little up and down. We might have some really good parts. We might have some parts where it drops a little bit on us, but I think it's going to be pretty great overall. Now, before I bring Tim in, I can see him waiting to tell us all about how the last 24 hours have been. I want to share a couple of links with everybody who's tuning in with us to make sure we're all kind of on the same page here. The first one I want to share, if you want to keep tabs live where the Agulhas 2 is, you can visit this site right here. In fact, I've got it queued up here. I'm going to bring it up so we can take a look. So you can see here, South Africa. You can see the amount of distance that they've covered here. And then if I zoom in a little bit, we can roughly see in the Weddell Sea where the ship is. So you can see the Antarctic Peninsula here, and then you can see the latest data point here for the Agulhas 2, which is really, really cool. So do use that link in your classrooms, or if you're following along curious from home, and you can keep track of where the expedition is closing in on that sink site. It's so excited. So I'm going to have a few more links to share as the event goes on, but for now, I think we should bring Tim in here. So let's go ahead and do that. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Hey, Joe, I'm great. It's such a privilege to welcome you all aboard the SA Agulhas 2 today. Fantastic to have you.
All right, amazing. Well, Tim, I'm going to let you take over for a little bit because I bet a lot has happened in the last, say, 20 to 24 hours. So let's get an update here.
Yes, it has. It has been really just about exactly 24 hours since we spoke last from the South African Weather Service office on board the SA Agulhas 2. A lot has happened, and the excitement is just very, very high on board the ship right now. Yesterday, for anyone who watched that event, you saw me get really, really excited at the sight of a seal just kind of napping on a piece of ice as it floated by the window. And this morning, before breakfast, when I went out to the bow of the ship, I saw penguins absolutely everywhere. There were so many Adelie penguins. It was amazing. There were minke whales. There were crab-eater seals, and even saw an emperor penguin. So the wildlife is really showing up in abundance as we get really, really close to the sink site of the Endurance. And you may see me jostling a little bit from side to side. That's the ship right now is cutting through some pretty thick ice as we get very, very close to the sink site. We have a search area that we're bound for. And as soon as we get there, we're going to start deploying those marine robotics that are going to go down 10,000 feet below the surface of the ice to start looking for that Endurance wreck. One of the other really exciting things that happened this morning is that the weather was favorable. And we got to take one of those Bell helicopters out of the hangar that I showed you in an earlier event. And everybody on the expedition team who wasn't lucky enough to be on the helicopter was on the back deck to watch the helicopter take off of the deck, swing around the side of the ship, and head forward in front of the ship to what lies ahead. They're going to do some reconnaissance of the sink site, see what the ice conditions are like when they get there, and drop actually a tracking buoy on the ice at the sink site so that we get some real live data about how quickly the ice is moving, what direction it's flowing. All of that is going to be really helpful when we get to the sink site later tonight, and can start to gauge where it's safe to put the marine robotics in and begin that search.
All right. Well, Tim, you were nice enough to send us a video of that helicopter launch. So I'm going to play it right now. So those tuning in can kind of get a feeling for what it was like, the sound of that helicopter taking off. So let's check that out now. All right, Tim, that's so cool. And you can really see the change in the ice from yesterday when we kind of saw that slushy, soupy ice kind of really spread out. It's really closer together today, bigger pieces.
Sorry, you cut out just for a second there, but yes, the helicopter was absolutely amazing. It's really a tangible sign that we're getting close to the wreck site, that things are really happening. And just everybody can be more excited to get started on the actual underwater search.
All right, amazing. Well, Tim, I know you have two really special guests joining us today. So why don't you introduce them and let's spend a little time getting to know them and catching up.
I would love to. I'm very, very excited to introduce our two guests today. I'm going to move aside in just a minute, but we have someone you've met before, head of exploration for the expedition, marine archaeologist Menson Bound, and expedition doctor Lucy Coulter, who are both here to do a little bit about what they do, what they're excited about, and what is going to happen in the days ahead for them. So I'm going to move out of the way and let them take my...
Hey, Joe. How you doing?
Hi.
Menson, it's great to see you. Last time I saw you, you were in the UK, just thinking about getting out and onto the ship.
I was at home talking to you. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's good,
and then, very cool. And then,
different now, Joe. I mean, look out my window now. It's just a field of ice.
Yeah, that's great, Menton. It must be getting really excited. And Dr. Lucy, it's so great to have you joining us live today for the first time.
Yeah, thanks. I'm really excited to be here.
All right. So, like Tim said, let's get to know you a little better. Menton, why don't you start? Tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're looking forward to, and then Dr. Lucy, we'd love to hear the same from you.
Oh, yeah. Well, my name is Menson Bound. I'm a maritime archaeologist. I'm the director of exploration. And probably most important of all, I'm one of the trustees of the Falkland Island Maritime Heritage Trust, which is chaired by the great Donald Lamont. And this to me is just the acme. It's the high point of my life. We are now just 5 hours away from the search area, and you know, I'm just so wound up. You know, I can almost smell the wreck. Over to you, Lucy.
So I'm Lucy. I am a doctor from the UK. I live and work in the south coast of the UK, and I've spent the past 10 years or so every so often going off on various expeditions and trips overseas. So, but for me, this is the top of all the expeditions I've been on. I'm so excited to be here. It's actually my first trip to Antarctica. I've spent quite a bit of time in the cold, in the Alps and in the north, but I've never been to Antarctica before, so I am super excited to be here. Yeah, so that's me.
All right, very cool. Well, Menson, I hear that you've just been kind of lounging around, enjoying the expedition so far. But now the real work starts. You're getting close to the sink site, and you're going to be probably run off your feet getting ready for everything that's happening.
Yeah, it's absolutely insanic right now, Joe. I mean, everything is just converging at such a dizzying pace. But this is this is almost 3 years of preparation, and now today it is all paying off. Before I go to bed tonight, we will have our first submersible in the water and down there sniffing around at 3,000 meters looking for Sir Ernest Shackleton's Endurance. I tell you, Joe, it doesn't get better.
It's pretty amazing. It's pretty exciting. I imagine it won't be a very restful sleep. I think you'll probably be waiting for the next results and pretty excited to see what happens.
Yeah, that's true. Sleep right now is something for Lucy and I and everybody else is at a bit of a premium. We kind of grab it when we can, sort of thing. So yeah, and when we are sleeping, we have our radios on, and every now and again they crackle to life with what's happening on the back deck, so we stay in tune even when we're asleep, kind of thing. But this is a 24-hour operation. You got to remember, the guys are on 12-hour shifts. I'm one of what they call the floaters. I just sort of grab the sleep when I can, and it's the same with you, Lucy, isn't it? There's the expedition doctor. She's got to be available at an instant in case an emergency arises. So we're both floaters together.
Yeah, so I'm on call 24/7. I do clinics every day for anybody that might need sort of day-to-day care. But in the meantime, I'm available. I've got a radio on me, and if there's anything that's particularly difficult going on or that got any risk involved in it, that I'm aware of it so that I can be available in case of anything happening.
Yeah, absolutely. An incredibly important job on the ship as the expedition doctor. I'm wondering if you've had any seasickness to contend with so far. I heard it was a little rough during some of the passage on the way over to Weddell Sea.
Absolutely. It was a bit rough on the way over. So I personally got a little bit myself. I didn't actually, not that bad, and luckily I managed to go outside on deck, and I felt fine once I'd gone out on deck. But there were a few people that were suffering a bit. But luckily we have a really well-stocked hospital, and I made sure that we had all the medications that we needed on board beforehand, so that we had medication for all eventualities.
All right, and I can imagine that you're
Joe,
hoping for. Oh, sorry, Menson, go ahead.
Well, I was just going to say, I mean, talking seasickness, I mean, just between you and me, right? But your dear colleague Tim Jacob, he was looking very queasy at times. Poor guy.
Yeah, I'm afraid Tim did take a little trip to the sick bay.
We did hear that rumor yesterday, but it sounds like he's found his sea legs.
Absolutely.
All right. So, Menson, I think before we start taking some questions from those who are tuning in, we've got a great classroom joining us live from the UK as well, and I can see all their faces. I know they're going to have lots of questions, but tell us a little bit about what the search is going to look like. This is a lot of water. It's really deep. What's the search for the wreck going to look like?
What's it going to look like? Well, we have 2 saber-tooth submersibles, and they will be taking turns to conduct the search. They're going down to 3,000 meters. But what is really challenging is this will be under the ice, and nobody really knows what it's like down there in the bottom of the Weddell Sea. I mean, you can't really see it on your cameras, but let's see. Can you see where I'm pointing? There's a map over there. That's the Weddell Sea. And I'll tell you what, Lucy, could you put your finger more or less on where the wreck? Actually, I'll show you. It's right in there. Okay. You see where my finger is? Okay, that's where we're heading. But what I really want to draw your attention to is this. If you notice, all the lines end there. It's just empty. The map is absolutely blank. They have no notion of what the seabed looks like down there. You can see all these lines here. They end there, there, and there. And this whole area here where the Endurance is blank. You know, we literally are going off the charts. How exciting is that? So what's it going to look like? Well, 3,000 meters. I'm sort of asking the same question myself. It's a tricky one because nobody's really been down there before and had a good look around. So I'm thinking we probably won't get a lot of fish in the sense, I mean, you mustn't think of those flashy, show ponies you get on Mediterranean reefs and things like that. Nothing like that, no. Probably get some ice fish down there. Those are primarily bottom feeders or ground huggers. They're sort of predatory fish that lie in wait for something to come by and they just woof them down. I'm not sure if we'll get very much in the way of fish life swimming over the wreck, but we will get a lot of what we call sessile life forms like sponges and things like that. Now the sponges, let's take that as an example, in the Weddell Sea, they grow huge because of the cold, it slows down their growth. So we get giant spiders, we get giant worms, we get giant isopods the size of soup plates. It's really weird stuff down there. But those sponges, if you think about it, some of them, they say, have been around for 3,000 years. I mean, that's back before they were building the pyramids, right? So it's going to be some weird life down there. But I tell you what I always think of is the Star Wars pictures, because every Star Wars picture has like a movie, has like a intergalactic bar scene, right? Where all the riffraff from around the universe kind of gathers together. And I can kind of see it a bit like that on the wreck of the Endurance. You got this vast abyssal plain where there's nothing, and in the middle of it all is the wreck of the Endurance, and just about anything that can swim, creep, crawl, or burrow is sort of heading for the Endurance, and sort of where they all be eating on each other and having a wild time. It's a bit like that.
All right. Well, that paints a pretty cool picture, a really interesting visual. And those saber-tooths, they're going to be put into the water, the AUVs, and then they're going to be programmed to kind of run a grid, right? They run a grid all by themselves, autonomously. They're going to be trying to sniff out.
Yeah, they'll be moving in parallel lines. But the thing is, we can control their flight path, their direction, but they will be sort of programmed to perform those kind of parallel moves. But if we happen to see something, because we can actually work with them in real time, supposing, let's say, a box appears on the seabed, then what we'll do is we just simply switch the saber-tooth to inspection mode, and we can actually stop it and go and take a look at that box, something like that, which would tell us that we're in the vicinity of the wreck. So they're amazing items of kit. They're sort of a hybrid between what we call an AUV, an autonomous underwater vehicle, and an ROV, which is sort of what we call a remote operated vehicle. So they have the best features of both, but they can hover. We can move them through 360 degrees. We could fly. We could loop the loop with them if we wished. But from an archaeological point of view, we can actually hover directly below some artifact and go in and inspect it closely.
All right, really cool. And Lucy, those pieces of equipment, those saber-tooth, they're big, they're heavy. It's a process to launch them and then bring them back on the ship. Are you on hand, on deck, through those launches, just in case?
So I'm on hand on the ship. On the deck itself, we've got a safety team that's going to be there, available for any eventuality. And I am on call to be able to respond straight away. I have the right equipment on to be able to respond straight away if there are any accidents or incidents that might happen while that's happening. So yeah, I'm always aware and I'm always close by, but not always out of the cold, luckily.
What I like, Lucy, is you have this what you call a grab bag,
yes,
which has got all your kit inside it in case of emergency.
Yeah.
I guess, hopefully we won't need it. In a situation like that, you'll just grab it and know whatever you need in that bag.
Yeah, exactly. So that's part of what I've been doing over the past few days. I've been making sure everything's ready, everything's good to go in the grab bag, and that everything's working. So that in that eventuality, it's straight out of the hospital, pick it up, and I can be down on the deck within the space of a minute. So.
All right. Well, I think it's time that we meet some of the students. We start taking some questions. So if you're tuning in live via YouTube right now, use that chat sidebar, fill it up with some questions for us. We also have, I'm really excited, we have a great class of primary students, grade 1, grade 2, joining us from Fleet, Hampshire. Miss Lewis's class. They're joining us live. I'm going to bring them in right now. Let's see if they're a little bit loud today. How's everyone doing today?
Good.
All right. Really good to see you. We would love to take some questions. So let's maybe grab 2 questions to get started. Do you guys have some questions for us?
Do you think you'll find all of Ernest Shackleton's ship?
All right. Shall I take this one?
I think we should take that one, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So, hello, Mrs. Lewis's class from Hampshire. Yeah. So, what was the question again? What was?
Will you find the whole
Will I find
ship?
the whole ship? Yeah, I think there's a very good chance we will. Will the ship be intact? The Endurance was probably the second most strongest built wooden ship ever. And I think that factor alone will mean that she survives the impact with the seabed. She has massive construction. Her frame, her skeleton was unbelievably strong. Now, when she hits the seabed like that, I think that strength will be enough to keep her together. So I think what we'll be looking at will be a ship which is in pretty together state. But she will look like a bit of a mess, because you've probably seen those photographs of what she looked like before she sank. All her masts were down, all that kind of thing, a lot of mess of ropes and stuff, right? Well, that should all be there as well. But as for the hull of the ship, the body of the ship, I think it should be together and intact. But on the other hand, if it isn't, and she has opened up like a pair of cupped hands, that wouldn't be so bad either, because then we could actually look inside and see what's there. Have a look inside the cabins and see what people left behind. Now, I have to stress at this point, we will not be touching anything. We're not going to take anything. This is what we call a non-disturbance survey. Back to you.
All right. And let's grab another question from Mrs. Lewis's students.
Why did you choose the Endurance22 to set off?
He would like to know, how did you choose that ship, the ship that you're on, to go on this journey in particular? What made that a good ship to choose?
Well, I think we can probably answer this one together,
Yeah.
because it's an ice-breaking ship, which means that it's able to get through the solid ice that we are experiencing at the moment, to be able to get to the site of the wreck. So it can smash through, break through the surface of the ice. And it's, as Tim mentioned earlier, you might see the boat rocking a little bit as we're speaking to you. And that's because we are literally going over the ice at the moment, and it is breaking it up. We'll just show you, we'll turn the camera around and we'll show you through the window.
Can you see that?
No. Oh, yes.
Do you see, we just passed a colony of penguins that went scuttling away, but you can see this is the view out the front of the ship, and we're currently breaking through very heavy ice as we make our way to the Endurance sink site. You can see it requires a very special ship, a powerful ship, to be able to navigate this kind of terrain.
You know what, Tim? I was just thinking, what Lucy was talking about then is actually quite interesting, to compare our technique in breaking ice to that of the Endurance. I mean, the Endurance literally would ram the ice, and what it tried to do is try to penetrate the ice with its wedge-shaped bow and open up a tiny crack, and then it would reverse and go at that crack again, and maybe a third time, and then try and prise it apart. Whereas we, by contrast, in this great juggernaut of a ship that we have, what we do is we aim to ride up and over the ice edge and then come whoomph down on it like the hammer of Thor or something like that, and just sort of bludgeon the ice to pieces all around us. Totally different method, but it works.
All right. And I think before we take some questions from YouTube, I think Mrs. Lewis's class would like to meet the 2 mascots for the journey. So they may have seen the seal before, but we have a special guest as well joining our seal mascot, don't we?
Yeah, we do. So here we've got Samson. So this is Samson. So he's the here he is saying hi to you all you guys. There we go. So he is called Samson because Samson was one of the husky dogs that was taken on the expedition. And he was Shackleton's favorite, or he was the largest one. He was the largest one. And so he's come on board as the mascot for the subsea team. So that's the team that are manning the vehicles that are going under the water. And I've been asked to look after him for the next couple of days because they're going to be a bit busy. So he's in my cabin. He's sleeping at the end of my bed, and he's keeping my feet warm at night.
All right, very cool. Well, Mrs. Lewis's class, we're going to come back to you in a little bit to see if you have another question or two, but I'm going to take a few questions now from YouTube. So the first one we have here, we have a year 5 student joining us from Oxfordshire in the UK, and they're wondering about the temperature at the moment. So yesterday, I think we found out it was about -2.5 degrees Celsius. Has the temperature changed?
Yeah, we were, by the end of yesterday, we were -5, I believe.
Yeah, and today, this morning, it's I've just checked, it's -7.8.
Is it?
So almost -8 degrees. So we were outside on deck for quite a while, a little bit earlier, while we were watching the helicopter take off. And there were a lot of frozen hands and frozen feet when we came back in. So we were warming them up with nice warm cups of tea.
All right.
But no frostbite yet.
No frostbite. Everyone's being very sensible.
But you're ready for that.
Yeah.
All right. So another question here that's come in is about how you're predicting where to search for the Endurance. So I think the person is imagining with 3,000 meters that there might have been some drift as the wreck was sinking. So how do you know where to kind of base your search?
There was probably some drift. I mean, she didn't sink vertically down to the seabed. She would have deviated from vertical a little bit, but probably not that much. I mean, our starting point is a set of coordinates that was left to us by the captain of the Endurance, a man called Coulter. But the problem was he was not able to take a position until the day after she sank. And in between, the ice was always on the move. So the position he gave isn't absolutely exact. We have to try and work out where the ship actually sank relative to where Worsley said it sank. I don't know if I'm saying that very well, but the position we have is not correct. So we have to work outwards until we find her. She's there. And if we go over her with the saber-tooths, we will find her.
All right. I like that confidence. That's really exciting. I'm sure everybody on the ship is feeling that right now and just, itching to get to that sink site and to start dropping the saber-tooths into the water. So another question here. This is from Mrs. Huckeno's class. They're joining us in Sayreville, New Jersey. And Susanna is wondering, with the saber-tooths down so deep, if something happens to one, maybe an electrical problem, is it going to be a difficult process to recover?
Should I take it?
Yeah.
That's one of the reasons why we have 2 saber-tooths. So if one of them is in trouble, we can send the other down to recover the first one. It's happened to us before in the past. So yeah, we do have a mechanism by which the second saber-tooth can actually reach out and latch onto the first one. Now, the problem last time we were down here, when we lost one of our submersibles, was that we didn't know where it was. But this time, all our operations are tethered, by which I mean there is a cord running from the saber-tooth all the way up to the ship, and we're following the progress of that saber-tooth all the time. We know precisely where it is. So if something goes wrong, it's really pretty simple for us to go down there and rescue it.
We've got the 2 names for the 2 different AUVs, don't we?
Yeah, we do.
So we've got Ellie and we have got Doris. So those are our 2 AUVs.
I got a question for you. Do you know what Ellie stands for?
No.
Right.
It's an acronym.
Yeah, no, well, not quite an acronym, but nickname for Elephant Island, which is where, of course, Shackleton, as you know, Shackleton made landfall after he left the ice, and where he had to leave them in while he went off to get rescue. So Ellie is for Elephant Island.
And do we have a reason why Doris is Doris?
No, Doris was actually inflicted upon us by the manufacturers.
Really?
Yeah, so we got to live with Doris.
Unfortunately, Doris is a temperamental one as well. She's
Yeah.
she's the one that's causing us a little bit more problems at the moment. Ellie is behaving perfectly.
Yeah.
All right. Very interesting to hear about the personalities of the two saber-tooths. Lucy, I'm wondering, we've got a question here. Can you tell us a little bit about, do you have like an office, a clinic? What does your space look like on board the Agulhas 2?
Yeah, so I'm really lucky actually. I've got this is the most amount of space I've ever had on an expedition to work as a doctor. So on the ship, I've got my little clinic room, which is like a GP surgery. So if any of you've been to the doctors before, if you've gone in to see a GP, so I've got a little clinic room that's exactly like that, and it's got everything that you would normally have in a GP surgery. And then I've got another room, which has actually got an operating theatre in. And we're not planning on doing any operations while we're here, but we do have the capability to do it if we want to. And we've also got a anaesthetic machine, so we can put people to sleep if they need to. But again, these are very unlikely situations. But in addition to that, we have a 3-bedded hospital, and we've got monitors, so I can keep an eye on anybody if they are unwell. I've got the ability to give them most medications that I might need to. And I've also got, in the hospital, we've got a little bathroom, which even got a bath. And I think it's the only bath on the ship. So I'm trying to keep it quiet, because when we stop moving, we might actually be able to have a bath and warm up.
So if I get, say, appendicitis, you'll be able to operate on me, Lucy.
Well, that's not in my skill set, unfortunately, but luckily we've got helicopters to be able to take us out, and hopefully you'll tell me if you have some tummy pain before it gets too bad that I'd need to operate on.
What about a toothache? Could you pull a tooth?
Toothache, I could pull a tooth. I've got the equipment to be able to pull a tooth, but again, I'm not a dentist, but I have lots of friends that are dentists who I will be speaking to on the phone before I took your tooth out.
I got to say, it's just so wonderful having Lucy with us, because big expeditions, we're over 100 people.
Yeah.
I mean, statistically at some stage something has got to go a little wrong with one of us, right? But to have her with us.
Yeah, hopefully nothing too bad is going to happen. At the moment, everything I've had to deal with has been very minor. I've got a very good supply of paracetamol, and I have a really big stock of plasters as well. So luckily, those are mostly the things I've had to use so far. Hopefully we don't have to use too much more.
All right. Well, we definitely hope things stay maybe a little boring for you, in the sense that you don't have too many visitors with bumps and bruises and things like that to have to work with. I'm going to bring Mrs. Lewis's crew back in. Let's see if they have another question or two for us.
Yours? Yeah, come in. Come on to the camera.
Have you found any stowaways on board?
We did worry about that, didn't we?
Yeah,
We left Cape Town.
Yeah, absolutely.
We had a couple of friends in Cape Town, people we worked with setting up this expedition. And if they'd stowed away in, say, one of the lifeboats or something, I don't think we'd have minded too much to have them were with us.
No, we might have had to tell them off initially, like Shackleton did, but then they probably would have become part of the crew.
I think they know the story about Shackleton and stowaway. They must do, otherwise we wouldn't have had that question.
Yeah, no.
But the stowaway which Shackleton had, he was a lovely lad, and he became hugely popular on the ship. He also lost all his toes to frostbite, didn't
Did he? Oh.
Amputate.
Yeah.
All right. Do you have another question for us?
Mrs. Lewis's class, before you ask any more questions, I just want to let you know that I grew up in Canberra, just round the corner from you guys. So I know Fleet really, really well. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, very close by.
Very cool.
Are you okay on the board?
She wants to know if you're all nice and safe on board.
Oh, we are all super safe on board. Yep. We've got lots of, we've got heating, we've got electricity, we've got flushing toilets, we've got amazing food, and everyone's being kept really safe and sound. A lot of people are having to work on shifts. So they're having to sleep at funny times of the day. But they are still getting plenty of sleep, and we're making sure on the boat that we're as quiet as possible. We know that other people are sleeping, and they've got do not disturb signs up on the door so that we know to keep quiet when they're sleeping. So everyone's keeping safe and sound and healthy.
All right. Well, Mrs. Lewis's crew, if you want to prepare maybe one more question, we'll probably have time to visit quickly one more time. We'll grab one or two more questions here from the YouTube audience. New Jersey, we've got Nick joining us in New Jersey, and he'd like to know about how thick is the ice right now?
Yeah.
Okay, right now we're going through what is called first year ice. It's not very thick at all, just over a meter at the most. But the ice we're going into later today, that could be 2.5, 3 meters deep. It can even extend to 5.5, 6 meters of depth. Now, this ship cannot break through ice of that thickness, but almost anything else we can handle.
Okay, so if you're in your classroom today and you have a meter stick or a yardstick, take a little measure of that meter of ice and then measure 2.5 meters of ice. And think about the Agulhas 2, which is kind of going up onto that ice and breaking that ice so they can make their way towards the sink site. That's so cool. Another question here is about the saber-tooths. About how long can they stay underwater?
That depends on their batteries, but the way our saber-tooths are constituted, they've got 9 hours of battery time. That 9 hours does not include the hour it takes to get it down, the descent time, or the time it takes to get it up. So our missions are really actually quite short. So we have to make sure that everything goes click, 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 so we can maximize the time we have.
Okay, and another question here. This is a neat one. They're wondering, if you find the ship, do you have a plaque or something to leave behind to commemorate the discovery?
We don't. We did think about it at one time, but here in the Antarctic, everything is very carefully controlled, and we say we don't leave anything behind except our footprints. That's it. We leave no mess. We don't put plaques down. So the answer is no, no plaques.
All right. And another question here from Oxfordshire. Emily would like to know, when did the idea for this expedition come, and how long has the planning been?
Sorry, would you be able to repeat the question? You cut out for a second there.
Yeah, absolutely. So Emily would like to know, what kind of inspired the start of the expedition, and how long has the planning been? How long has this expedition been in planning?
Yeah. In August, it'll be 10 years since the man who came up with the idea first came up with the idea. And it all happened in a coffee bar in South Kensington. It was he and I together one day, and it was his idea. He said something like, "Mention, how about the Endurance?" And the funny thing is, I tried to talk him out of it. I didn't think the technology was ready. But that was 10 years ago. I mean, how wrong I was. The technology was there, just. Yeah, so it's been a long time. And this particular mission, because this is our second attempt, this has been 3 years in preparation.
All right. Let's bring Mrs. Lewis's crew in one more time and see if they have another question for us.
Mia, can I ask you a question? No? Shall I ask for you? We've got one last question. We wanted to know what would happen at the end if you do find it. Do you think there will be any plans to do anything with the ship? I know that you've said you wouldn't touch it this time, but maybe in the future, do you think they would try and raise it up from the bottom, or is that not likely to happen?
Well, we will not be doing that, but who's to say in 50 years, 100 years from now, when conservation has developed to a newer and much higher level, that might be something I want to consider then. I think I can say that if we are successful, there are people on this mission and back in England and indeed Norway who would very much like to make a replica of the Endurance and then possibly sail it around the world with a view to putting out, talking about the ecology and all those kind of issues like global warming and things like that, particularly to do with the oceans. So there is a small core of people who are thinking about perhaps making a replica of the Endurance if we find it.
And I think what's really exciting is with the water being so deep, so cold, that you're expecting to find the wreck in really, really good shape. The wood nicely preserved in a way that wouldn't happen somewhere like the Caribbean or elsewhere in the ocean.
Oh, that's true, Joe. I only caught half of that. But if I caught the inference of what you were saying correctly, yeah, the wreck should be in a very good state of preservation, mainly because there are no wood-consuming marine parasites in the Weddell Sea. There's nothing there which will erode or eat away at the wood. On top of that, there is the cold. The conditions are almost perfect for the preservation of wood and other organic materials. So I'll be very surprised if she's seriously eroded at all.
All right. Well, I want to take a quick minute here as we're wrapping up to share a few more links with the classrooms and those who are joining in live with us right now. As I shared at the beginning, if you want to keep track of the position of the Agulhas 2, you can do so here. Let me pop that link back up there so you can see the distance it's covered so far, and you can see they're kind of moving in on the wreck site. As well, here's another link to definitely check out and visit Reach the World. This is kind of the big gathering page, the lesson page, where you can find journals and resources and anything you could want to find to learn more about the crew, the expedition that's happening right now. I think Chris, who's tuning in right now from Reach the World, mentioned yesterday there's an article to be released soon on the Albatross and the Petrels. So do definitely bookmark this site and keep an eye on it. If your class has not registered yet, you can visit explore.reachtheworld.org. You can register your class to get updates over the next few weeks as we have many more live events coming from the expedition. And finally, I should mention we're really excited for the 18th at 11 o'clock Eastern when Tim is going to head up to the bridge and we are going to meet the captain, Captain Knowledge. I'm so excited for that event. It should be an incredible view and really cool to see what's happening on the bridge of the SA Agulhas 2. So definitely some things to check out, to mark in your calendars, register for the event coming up on the 18th. Let's bring that screen share back here. And Tim, Menson, and Lucy, it's been so great to be able to join you live at such an exciting moment. The ice is getting thicker, more marine life around you, more Antarctic life, and you're closing in on that sink site. Really exciting times ahead. We're so excited for the live events over the next couple of weeks as everything kind of comes together in this expedition 10 years in the making.
Yeah, we're super excited to be part of it all and really happy to be here today.
Thank you, guys. And thank you all the classes which have tuned in to be with us.
All right, let's bring in our crew in the UK. Let's get nice and loud. Mrs. Lewis's crew, a big goodbye and thank you so they can hear you all the way out on the Weddell Sea. All right, great to see everybody. Good luck, Menson. Good luck, Lucy. Tim, thank you so much. And we will see, we'll be live again on the 18th. We can't wait. See everybody. Have a good day.
Bye.